this is just something that warms my heart. You know, it warms my heart when you get a sense of validation about something that you've been passionate about for so long from someone that you really admire, right? And Christopher Nolan is definitely one of those people that I do admire. I've been a very big Christopher Nolan fan for a long time. Now there are some movies that I absolutely love from him, some movies not so much. But one thing that you can never do is take away from the fact that this guy is a prolific director, right? Just really, really good. With that said, we had talked about how the other day or last week or so, somebody tried to ask this man questions about superhero movies, and Christopher Nolan was like, nope, not gonna do it, because the moment I say anything about superhero movies, that's all y'all gonna talk about. Run with it. I ain't going. I'm not going. Woo! Masterful, wonderful. This guy knows what he's doing, right? Then we also had people's not mine, but other people's favorite director, Martin Scorsese. And let me be clear, Martin Scorsese is one of the all-time greats. He's made so many fantastic films. But one of the biggest issues that I've personally had is the fact that I feel like his opinion on the state and culture of movies is a little stale. You know, he conveniently tends to blame superhero movies for the destruction of the movie going culture. And it always conveniently comes around when one of his movies come out, and then they don't do too well. How's Killers of the Flower Moon doing? I don't know. I don't know if it's doing well. I don't know. Irishman didn't. Yeah, y'all watch that still? Nobody? Anybody? Okay. Anyway, but Scorsese, of course, has become infamous. Probably the leading charge, the person in charge of old white directors coming out against comic book movies, like for whatever reason. Again, it is the weirdest thing to me that they want to fight this. I don't think it's a coincidence that when they do come out with it, most of these directors, their movies are flopping in the theaters at the time, and they're blaming the comic book movies because nobody wanted to see their whack little movie. Because even when people do see the movie, they still say the movie's not that good. But whatever. So I already did a whole video on Scorsese's latest comments on superhero movies and basically why a lot of his comments fall short and I would say are counterproductive. And I would also say are not realistic. They're not practical. He would sit here and comment on how the culture is changing. And I've been saying for the longest, it's okay for culture to change. Just because it's not going in the direction you want it to go into does not mean that because it's going into a change that it's a bad thing. Things are allowed to change the same way art is supposed to change. Art cannot stay the same. So if people in today's world want action flicks and superhero movies and big IP productions, so be it. Guess what's going to happen? At some point, people will get tired of it. People will stop putting money into it. And then people will start looking for something else. This is how the human race has just evolved. We go with one thing, we ride it out, and then we move on to the next. That's why, no, culture is not dying with film. The industry is not dying. Anyway, I got a whole video on that. Y'all can go on there. I explain that. Here's what I like, though, because one of the funniest things was while Scorsese was going on his whole little rant, he was over here talking about like, hey, the studio's got to give people like Christopher Nolan a shot. Didn't they just give Christopher Nolan like $200 million to do Oppenheimer? Who said no to Christopher Nolan? But the difference is Christopher Nolan, while he does go out there and put out original stuff, his stuff is usually good. That's the difference. And his stuff usually brings in money. He doesn't ask them for $400 something million and only bring in $2. Irishman. He doesn't ask them for 5-hour long movies that people barely finish watching and then the studio makes no money. Killers of the Flower Moon. He doesn't do that. Christopher Nolan is probably the best example of somebody that can still give you that art house, heartfelt, artistic film, but is still appealing as a blockbuster in a sense. I mean, come on now. Oppenheimer is about to make like 900 something million dollars, close to $1 billion, and it's a movie about a scientist who made the atomic bomb. What? What? In no world, in no time would I have ever thought a movie about a science nerd would have made almost $1 billion and not be a comic book movie, like at all. So shout out to Nolan in that regard. So anyway, we finally got some gold. We finally got Christopher Nolan to weigh in on this whole conversation about superhero movies and the culture and all of that. When I tell you, I loved every single word this man said. Let's get to what he actually said here. In this interview, he said, oh, hold on. Let me get it. There we go. He says, there's always a balance in Hollywood between established titles that can assure a return in audience and give people more of what they want. That's always been a big part of the economics in Hollywood. Now, let me break this down for you just real quick, because what he just said is absolutely true. What he's talking about is IPs, big recognizable IPs, big franchises, and sequels. And that's always been something true in Hollywood. How many diehards are there? You know, how many Alien movies? How many Predator movies? How many Terminators have we got? Why do they do that? They make sequels because they know audiences will come back and pay for it. It's literally been what Hollywood has been doing for decades. They make sequels. Why? Because audiences like things that are familiar to them. Sure, will we take a shot on something new once in a while? Sure. But if you tell me there's going to be a sequel to this thing that I really love and I'm going to get more of it, of course, I'm going to show up for that. So right off the bat, Christopher Nolan is already talking about something that clearly goes over Scorsese's head, because I haven't heard him talk about sequels or nothing. He's only railed against these bigger IPs and being like, oh, well, why are the studios giving them money? Because they bring back money. That's why. But let's go back. He says here, and it pays for a lot of other types of films to be made and distributed. I don't know how many times I've had to say this too. Big studios will sit here and make their big movies, big franchises. And guess what? They'll use some of that extra money from that big franchise IP and fund smaller independent films or lesser known films. That's the business side of Hollywood. That's the side that Martin Scorsese, for whatever reason, neglects to even bring up when he's saying studios need to give more money or give more to these other filmmakers. They're not just going to bleed money. They're not just going. I've been saying this from the jump. Big movies fund little movies. And when the little movies become big movies, the big movies fund other little movies. That's how it works. No time. I gave y'all the perfect example. Nobody was checking for John Wick 1. That was a small, independent like type of film. Nobody was really looking for that. That was not a recognizable IP. It was just like, what is this? This is a dude chasing a dog that died. What? Who? And then you saw him. You was like, hey, this wasn't bad. This was all right. Then they gave him a sequel. Then that sequel got a sequel. Now it's $1 billion franchise. And guess what? The studio's going to take that John Wick money, and they're going to make a John Wick 5, by the way. They're going to take that John Wick money, and they're going to make the next thing. It might not be a John Wick. Maybe it's a drama. Maybe it's an award-winning film. Whatever. They're going to take that money and fund something else. It's two sides of a coin. You got the artistic side for creativity, but then you still got to be a business. You think the money just show up out of nowhere? Thank you, Christopher Nolan, stating that. Now, he also says, but there also always needs to be respect for the audience desire for something new. Oh, this man preaching. That's one of the big thrills of going to the movies is frankly seeing a trailer for a movie you've never heard of, a type of movie you haven't seen. A healthy ecosystem in Hollywood is about a balance between the two things and always has been. Somebody, but that brother is preaching. Woo! A healthy balance. Who would have guessed it? Who, who's, hold on, what was that? Thanos, perfectly balanced as all things should be. Perfectly balanced. Yes, perfectly balanced as all things should be. That's exactly what this should be. Okay. You got your money making side and you got your artistic side. They both gonna matter. And guess what? What I love what he just said. What did he say? There has to be a respect. Woo! I need to show y'all that quote again. Can we put it in red? I need that. I need this in red. Hold on. There also always, I said always, needs to be a respect for the audience's desire. Say it with me now, congregation. With the audience's desire for something new. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. This is what I'm talking about. We are the consumers. You don't make these movies for yourself. You make these movies to express yourself to us. It is not a one-way street when it comes to filmmaking. Nobody makes a movie for them to watch by themselves. You make a movie to show and communicate something to others that are willing, usually, to pay to hear this. This man was spitting. Because at the end of the day, one of the underlying issues that a lot of people have been having with these old directors, and especially Martin Scorcese, is the lack of respect that they have for the people that put money in their pockets. Because the last time I checked, I can watch The Departed and The Avengers and have a great time. Why you gotta crap on the things that I enjoy? Why you got to sit here and act as though I'm part of the culture that's being, like, I don't know, devalued or degraded or whatever, because I want to go see some superheroes fly around and shoot lasers? I could do that and go watch Oppenheimer at the same time. Did we not just go see Barbie and Oppenheimer in theaters? But that's not cinema. Cinema is not just one thing, sir. This is why people have gripes with the comments that you got to say. Because you out here being real mad disrespectful, once again, to the people that made you rich. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't get movies greenlit in the first place. Healthy ecosystem in Hollywood. That's all we need. That's all it is. That's it. And just have some respect. Have respect for the people that go watch your movies, that enjoy it. Because guess what? Maybe I'm not a fan of yours yet. But maybe because I watched this movie and a trailer came up, like Nolan said, maybe I'm going for Avengers 15. And then I see the trailer for some other new movie coming out. I'll be like, hey, what's that? Okay, maybe I'll give that a shot too. So we can have both. Both can happen. We can get those small, independent, creative movies, and maybe those things turn into something big. And we can also have some fun, have a little escapism, and go watch some things blow up. That's always okay too. Whew. Anyway, what did y'all think about Christopher Nolan's comments? Personally, I think it's a perfect slap back. I feel like Christopher Nolan politely and accurately says the things that other people be thinking without really dragging and putting people's names in it. But I'll do it. I'll say it. Oh, he smacked that man Scorsese. He ain't gonna say it. He ain't gonna admit to it. But his comments pimp smacked the mess out of Scorsese's nonsense. I say that. And all the other directors that had issues. Yes. But anyway, what do y'all think? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.